Today we're going to take the Hasbro Star Wars Black Series Black Krrsantan and make it look like this. Hey, wait a second. Okay, people, welcome back to another play day. Kinda. Okay, it's not a standard play day. You guys know I love a good play day where the screen is just full of action figure goodness, things people have sent me, stuff I've worked on, retail things I've picked up to see if they fit into 1/12 collection. This isn't quite that. This is just one figure. But I am showing the process this time around because I finally have a space to show that kind of thing. I've been working on this building for months and months and months, but it finally clicked. I put the camera here, I can show most of what I do. And people ask, I am not saying I'm an expert at all. I'm not even saying I'm good, but I wanted to show how I did what I did. Does that make sense? So there's some bull and pop in this video. There is some dremeling. There is a little painting. There's the spray booth. There's some putting back together. There's some dull coating. Just a little bit of everything. But there's other reasons I'm doing this. One, Big Bad Toy Store reached out and said, hey, can we collaborate on something Star Warsy? When it comes to reviews or my own personal collection, I was pretty caught up. But I thought, you know what? I've been wanting to do mods to the Hasbro Star Wars Black Series Black Krrsantan for a long time now. So that's what they sent me, along with other figures that I'm still working on. Those are mostly paint washes, a little detail work. This seemed more rounded out and involved. Kind of all aspects of what my usual customizing process is. But another big reason was Out of the Basement on Twitter posted a shoulder fix that one of their commenters suggested, and I thought, oh, Robo, get off your ass. Finally do this. Do the other mod you've been wanting to do. Let's go. Now, to be honest, the range of movement here isn't terrible for a thicker, bigger Wookiee type. There's armor, there's plastic fur because we haven't perfected that technology of real hair on action figures and not be weirdly gross about it. And that causes the shape to get in the way of joints. It's not like a muscle type character where there's clearance. The mid-torso does go back and forth and there is tilt and then there's some looking down and some looking up. Not so much tilt there, some side to side, but like I said, there's a lot of stuff in the way. But we're gonna try to clear some of that out, see what happens, and the first step in that process is to take it all apart. For that, I like to use hot water because it gets down into the joints evenly. If I was using my handy dandy heat gun, it would be the outside and then I have to get the inside and everything else. Here, I can just put the whole figure in, wait it out, let it soften up, and then just pop it apart. Then when I put it back together, I'll use this because I can pinpoint the spots I want to soften up. Maybe I'll do a little painting to this, some sealing, and I don't want to dunk it back in the water. So I can do the socket and then push the pin in and done. Now you want to be careful here because the water is hot, but you can already see how soft the plastic's becoming. Well, the head popped off anyway. Let's see if we can get it apart at the waist before we get too far up. Not quite yet. Let's dunk it a couple minutes more. I'm thinking I'm going to come in and paint the scar at the very least. I'd like to highlight the wider parts of the fur a bit more here and here and here and some parts of the body, but I'm thinking that when I dull coat this whole thing, it'll knock the shine down and make those more apparent. I mean, even right now you can see it a little bit better because it's wet and it's not plastic shiny. Okay, the water's not hot, but yeah, it was hot enough to soften that up in there and come off the peg. Then I can slide the armor off, and I also want to pop the arms out, and that's very nice because the torso softened up too. Back in the day, that used to be a harder plastic, and you couldn't do this. You'd have to hammer at it, you'd have to take a screwdriver, you have to pry it, you have to do some cutting, some dremeling, something. I prefer this any day of the week. And I guess since it's warmed up and it's right here, we can do the out of the basement fix. If you take this spacer piece out, you get more movement to the arm, which makes sense because there's not plastic in the way. So I'll go ahead and do that. That's one less thing I have to heat up and pop back together later. Like I said, these were to keep it from gapping up, and that's what it does, but because of the dark color of the body, and it'll be covered up with armor here later, so I don't think that's a problem. But ooh, does it improve the range of movement? They say you can now get the arm across for a shooting pose, so I'm looking forward to that. We'll get to that. Oh, well, you got drop down now too. Up, down, front, back, all around. Oh, okay, I'm liking what I'm seeing. That's a good start. The long peg ball joint at the mid-torso is sunk really, really deep, and that's just a safety thing. That's safety standards. Hasbro is really particular about that because these figures are sold in kids' toy aisles. To try to free it up some more, we're going to Dremel around the inside of this and just make more space. That's essentially what's going on. But you don't want to make the socket bigger than that ball joint on the inside, because that will make it loose. That'll make it pop apart easily when you're trying to pose it around. It's not a fine line. You're definitely going to be able to see it once you get to that point, and man, you got to remove a lot of plastic to get that far, so I feel fairly confident this is going to work. For this, I'm going to use my Dremel that I've had for years and years and years, but my weapon of choice when it comes to removing plastic is this bit. This will chew through most toys. The good thing about this part right here too, it's going to be covered up. It's hidden. It's down in the inside, so you do not have to be pretty about it. Okay, I've just Dremeled one side to show the improvement in range. From center, it goes this way about this far. Then from center to this side is further. It's not a huge difference, but it's an improvement, and hopefully we'll be able to see it once the body's all together. Oh, and wear eye protection when you're doing this. There is plastic flying all over the place. I used to be young too. I don't need any kind of protection. I just close my eyes or it just bounce off my young, strong pupils. No, don't do it. Cover them up. Not bad. Let's see if we can take this a little further by digging a trench on the front and the back. Oh, I just realized something. I'm Dremeling this bigger to allow more movement here. I put this on and it puts the rim back around it. I guess I'm gonna have to Dremel here too. The thing about the softer plastic, I don't know if this is helping talking while I'm Dremeling, but it gets hot, it gets soft. So you can kind of guide through and just kind of take your time and then work your way around it. The worst thing you could do with this piece is to slip out and then because it's going to be visible. In fact, that would probably be where a drum type sander would work a lot better. Much finer, much cleaner. Look at that. Yeah, now it goes a little further out. It's higher, so it will touch, but softer material, it should move out of the way if I'm cranking it forward or back. Okay, I'm to the point where I can cut some of this out. You get it thin enough, you can bring your side cutter in and clean up the ragged edge. Let's see what we can do with the neck. Now, again, because of the shape of the fur, the character's look, it's covered up. You have all this on top of the shoulders, so we have all kinds of room to work with here. Well, I say that, again, you do not want to make the hole bigger than the ball joint. That just defeats the purpose. That would just fall out. But I think we can take just a little off. Almost went too far because, watch this. Yep. Well, it's a little heated too from the friction, but it's still tight. In fact, I may have to heat it up to get it back in there. Do I want to do anything to the inside of the neck? Oh, that's tough. It is pretty thick here, and I could probably take quite a bit before getting to the outside. To hell with it, we're here. See if that does anything at all. Oh, well, it's better down at least, and then it doesn't help the tilt. There's some shift. Was that there before? It had to have been. That's how the joint works. Look at that. I went to pop the head off. It came out of here. I took a little too much off, but not enough for it to just fall off. It still pops down in there, I think. Come on. There we go. Okay. It pops off like the head pops off. But I'm not putting a different head on there, so it doesn't matter where it pops off, as long as it pops off. That Dremel bit produces a lot of trash. So again, side cutters are your best friend. Smooth it out a bit. The more I mess with this, the more I think I'm not gonna add any more paint to the fur parts. This is pretty well defined, and like I said, it may stick out even more when I dull coat this. I have the white on the thighs and the white on the elbows, just like Krrsantan in the show. And then the armor looks pretty good. If nothing else, I would like these bands to be duller and then leave this kind of shiny because it's metal, but as is, I can't complain. It's a little dirty, a little grungy. I'm happy with it. The pouch has some dry brush, some wash on it. It makes it look kind of aged leather, but this could use some TLC. Then I think I may give the gun a light silver dry brush just to age it up. I think for this I'm just going to try to dry brush a little lighter brown on top of it. I may even go lighter than this, maybe a tan color. For that we only need a tiny little bit. Take an old crappy brush that you've been using for years to do this exact technique, put a little bit on it, and then wipe most of it off. It's not super obvious at first. You just want to kind of brush past it. You want to hit the high points. You want to put a happy little highlight on the fur here. I usually come back and do that and try to hit a little bit more. This may be too close to the base color. And just like the dremeling, you don't have to be pretty about it. If you get too much, who cares? If you don't get enough, who cares? This is all about what you want to do with it. I'm going to make a couple of passes just to build it up, and I can kind of see it getting lighter on the high points. The thing about this, it's a little lighter, and then if I go to a lighter color, it'll be painting over a lighter color instead of the base color. So you're building up. And even then, if you go lighter with the next one, you'll have more layers. There'll be dark down in the crevices. It'll be a little lighter as it works its way up, and then lightest on top. Or that's the theory at least, or what I tell myself. It's getting a little more detailed, but it still doesn't match the color from the show. So I'm gonna find, oh, you know what? In fact, let's use a little flesh tone. I know this seems way bright, but it may mix with this to make a nice tan color. If it wasn't dried up, I need to use paints more. Well, who cares? I just need a little bit to get on my palette. And this is gonna show you what it's supposed to look like. See how it's just hitting the high points? I'm pushing a little harder than I usually would, but it's also fur, so it's not an exact science. I just brighten it up just a little bit, especially here because that's the side that's facing out. I have a tendency to overdo dry brushing because I can't stop. I get relaxed, I start doing it, and then boom, suddenly it's a bright ass color, but I don't know, that'll work. How about a little bit more right there, because why not? It just has a lot more contrast. It brings out the sculpt. Exact same concept for the rifle. We're gonna take some silver, just dab a little bit. Wait, I need to shake this up probably. We're just gonna dab a little on the brush, wipe most of it off. You can see I've done silver recently. I think that was for Forge's gun. And then since it's silver on a darker color, it's gonna build fast. So you wanna just swipe as fast as possible across the high points. Don't even push. I'm just barely feeling the gun under the brush. A little goes a long way, so you don't want to get super crazy with it. Just wanting to bring out some of the sculpt. Going back to steals of the show, I think it's supposed to be darker color, but I just like doing this. Like I said, I find dry brushing relaxing. Once I start doing it, I'll find things to dry brush to put some color to. I'm probably going to end up dull coating this when I do the figure, so some of this is going to get knocked down. It seems shiny at the moment, but it won't be so shiny here in a minute. Finally, the scar above the eye. They did sculpt the scar there, it just didn't get painted. And in the show, it's more apparent because you can see the fleshy scar color. My go-to there is usually Vallejo model color brown rose. I use this for the base of lips or the inside of eyes when I get that detailed, which doesn't happen much anymore. But for scars, yeah, this is not a bad color at all. On top of all that, I'm old, I'm shaky, I'm blind. I'm gonna be using these. Go right in there, right there. And then we're gonna go right here. I'm also right up on the microphone, so if this is super loud, I'll try to fix it in post. Okay, you can see that it's super pink, super obvious. Another reason to have a heat gun handy is to make paint dry way faster. I'm taking a blade and just scraping a little off where I got up on the hair itself. I want it to be down on the lowest part. Again, I'm shaky, I'm messy, but there's a way to fix these kind of things. It's not the end of the world if you get a little out of the lines. Then what I'm gonna do is take the Tamiya Weathering Master oil stain, put a little on a brush, and then hopefully that'll just blend it in a little. I want to darken it down. I want to make it look like it's down in the fur. Seems to be taking that pinkishness away. It makes it subtle. That's what I'm looking for. A little subtle. Like in the show, it's not super noticeable until, well, the camera focuses on him, but there you go. You see it, but you don't. You know what I mean? Until you go, oh, I wonder where he got those scars. You want to know how I got these scars? Obi-Wan Kenobi. That butthole. I was getting ready to spray some dull coat, and I didn't realize that this belt piece is a separate overlay on top of this overlay. McFarlane's DC Multiverse stands work surprisingly well with Star Wars Black Series. Just using some Mr. Hobby Mr. Super Clear matte. Oh dang, there's metal on that, but... And just because I found this the other day, I'm going to use this 25-30-year-old bottle of Future Floor Finish and gloss up the eyeballs. I'm not looking for super realistic, but I think that always just spruces it up a bit. Maybe I'll even hit inside the mouth. Just barely touch the eyeball, just to give it a wet look and make it stand out. And yes, I know this brush is shit. I'm gonna toss it out after this, then just put it inside the mouth for a wet look. Don't wanna hit the teeth. Don't want wet teeth. Oh, wait. Then the only thing I should have to heat back up to get back together is this socket. But I remembered to put this back together and put it on there before doing that, so that would have sucked. Heat that up. Come on, be good. Oh yeah. Shit, I forgot to put this back on. Let's see if that comes. There we go, okay. Let's get this back on before it cools off. Damn, it cooled off. Okay. Pop the head back on. Oh man, look at that. Okay, that's what I was looking for, some action poses. And that was my biggie here. I wanted him to be able to hold his rifle properly. He can't quite aim down the scope, but he can get damn close. Originally, he couldn't hold the gun like this. It's not a huge difference from before to after, but the silver dry brush and the dull coat does make a difference. I've probably rubbed a lot of the silver off, taking it in and out of the hands, posing it up and everything, but I like how this kind of brings it into the real world. It softens everything. This is plasticky, and there's nothing wrong with this. I bought a toy. I went into it knowing it was an action figure, so not a big deal, but for 5 minutes, I did a and then a and I like it better. And it's the same thing for the figure itself. Not a huge difference until you get into the nitty-gritties. And yeah, I do have 2 Krrsantans. Do you even know me? The difference in sheens isn't as obvious as the rifles, but it does help a little. Like I said, it knocks down the glare coming off the black fur, and it allows the wider highlights to stand out. And I don't know why this came out super glossy. Maybe I added too much, but you can see how I lighten that up. That'll look a lot better once I get another coat of matte on there or something. Okay, I came back around and hit it with the dry brushes again because those paints are very matte. It's definitely different than the original. But this was my biggie. I wanted to bring those scars out, and I'm actually kind of proud of that. I went into it not knowing how it would turn out, and there for a minute I thought, well, I screwed this up. That's way too pink. But after some fiddling, yeah, I love that. Something to spruce it up without being an eye catcher. You're not drawn to it. And I don't know how much of a difference wetting the eyes and mouth did, but I don't know, it adds a little realism, I guess. On the old one, there was some look down, some look up, some shift side to side. It did do that. I forgot all about that. On the one I dremeled out, there is better forward, better back, better side to side, and actually a little tilt. Then on the mid-torso, on the old one, it did this and tilt and tilt and turn. On the modified one, there is a bit more crunch, a bit more arc, and then more tilt side to side. On the old one, the butterflies went forward and back. There was maybe a little up and down. Removing those caps in there gives way more forward, way more back, some shift up, some shift down. In fact, you gotta kind of remember to move the arms back up. But again, because of the darkness of the fur and the shoulder pads covering it, you can see some gap right there. That's from the arm being down a little bit. You put it back into position, you don't know the difference. It's not noticeable at all. So here you can crunch them and then have him looking forward for a battle type pose like this. On the old one, there was a little crunch and a little look up, but not near the hunch over. It's not bad, but now this is where I'm at, and I can just give him a lot more personality. I also really like how fluid the neck is now. And then he probably could have done this before all the mods, but again, loosening up the joints a little bit, it's easier to do. It just kind of falls into positions like this. Now that I've done all that, I should have probably done something to the elbows, although I don't know what I could have done. Open it up a bit more. How would you get more range going that way without tearing up the front of the arm? I don't know. I'm not an engineer. I just follow in the footsteps. And I didn't reinvent the wheel here or anything. There are lots and lots of people who did these mods before me. I'm not saying that, hey, look at me. Somebody finally fixed Krrsantan. No. As I mentioned way back at the first, I've been wanting to do this for a while after seeing many a person do these mods. This is just me playing. And that's what I like to do. That's how I hobby, is having a good time, making my stuff a little more unique for my shelf, that I can look up and go, oh, you know what? I did that. And hopefully you can watch this and go, well, if he can do that, then I can do that too. Look how shaky he is. Look how many times it took to do this, or trial and error, or just winging it. I didn't know how some of this was going to turn out, but it's the process that I enjoy, the figuring it out. There's no wrong way. There's not. If you're happy with your action figure at the end of the process, you won. Congratulations. Like I said, there's more on the way. There's a stack of stuff for a regular play day, and then there's some paint work to be done for another Big Bad Toy Store play day. It helps me out if you go into the description, click on the link, get Black Krrsantan to work on them, or get something else. Hey, whatever you want to do, or not. Just enjoy the video. Enjoy life. Enjoy the hobby. Enjoy your toys.